All right, folks, we're gonna get started here in a moment. I'm gonna go ahead and mute you, Dennis, because all right, there we go. We're gonna get started. Welcome to Campaign for America, episode 17. Um, all about change. We're here with Dennis Andrew Ball, and we are going to discuss the latest corruption, fraud, and politics that's going on in the world today, and what we can do to find solutions to those problems, folks. Beginning our countdown timer, and then we will start right afterwards. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook, Rumble, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Telegram, and several others. We will be broadcasting here shortly. The views expressed on the show are expressly the views of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect the views, beliefs, or opinions of News for Us World, its hosts, broadcasters, or affiliates. Remember, folks, always use your own discernment when viewing. We encourage our viewers to think for themselves. Welcome, everybody. This is episode 17 of Campaign for America. We're here with Dennis Andrew Ball, and we are going to discuss change and solutions to these problems that we are facing in our society today. Let me play the intro, and then we will start. All right, folks, welcome. Hold on, my camera's acting a little weird. You want to go ahead and get started and begin, Dennis, and tell our viewers what today's show is all about? Unmute yourself, Dennis.
We are proceeding on a course to establish the American Party of America as the dominant party in the political sphere of influence in the United States of America. This has been a long time obsession of mine to get our nation back to a society of people who believe in the rule of law as well as in the economics of creating a better lifestyle for all. Currently, Jerome Powell, who is the Fed chairman, said that inflation is still increasing in spite of spending and that credit card debt is at an all-time high, approaching $1 trillion. As a matter of fact, I know in terms of my own book sales that there has been a decrease in them, I believe not because of my writings, but because the condition of our economy and the discretionary income has been depleted enormously over this period since COVID-19 has rebounded and continues on to impact our people. As a matter of fact, here in Illinois, 4 counties in southern Illinois have been declared as high risk, including the county that I dwell in, called Williamson County, of which that is Marion, Illinois, and others close to it. So as to mask mandates and mask wearing, I think that's something you have to individually consider. But I know for myself, in January, I was very ill, early January, and I found out that I had contracted the SARS-2 virus. I went and see my doctor yesterday, and I am clear. So I am very cautious. I wear a mask out in public, and I suggest others do too. Now, when we have our schedule, which is coming for our Campaign for America rallies, this is going to be something that needs a very timely execution with respect to all the issues that we are dealing with on this show and beyond. And I have been talking to Stephen also as to the differences in the country at this time as we continue to move things forward. We are very, very encouraged. I just this last Friday was able to access my scooter, which will help me on the stage when we start these rallies. These rallies will begin sometime in April and will continue on. Praise God, we have the opportunity to do this and change America. Stephen, I wanted to say that I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was the early part of this month in March, where there was some riotous behavior coming from people in their 20s and 40s that were protesting what is called Cop City in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
And these people were, I believe, either Antifa or environmentalists, but they were considered anarchists and terrorists and have been so charged. 35 of them, of which 23 were arrested. These are felonies. These felonies can provide punishments up to 35 years in federal penitentiary. So this is not a little thing that's going on in the country.
Mhm.
The disrespect I see for our flag and for the men who have died for it and for our values of family, freedom, and liberty are being poo-pooed and desecrated by
They
a
are.
certain group of people in this society who do not appreciate nor have love for our society or our country. And this concerns me a lot. And I pray every day that these people, and if I should meet up with them, that God will intervene in their lives and will bring them to the knowledge that we are not alone and that they have something positive to look forward to. But if they choose the dark side, then there will be punishments for that too. And for that, I want to ask you, Stephen, What is your take on our country right now and our future?
Man, wow, with the way everything's going, with all these train derailments and then these protests that you're talking about, and everything else, considering, I can't help but think about all the times that they fraudulently used CV-19 as an excuse on death, cause of death, just because that somebody had it when if they like died in a car accident or whatever. And I want to remind people that that's gone on a lot, folks, and so we have to be mindful of that as well. But I think that we're at a crossroads right now as a country, and not just as a country, but as a society, and not only that, but a global society. If we don't stand up and fight this tyranny, we won't have any future generations or future to look forward to. And I think we're at an impasse, and I think people are really waking up to it. But I think they need guidance on how to take action. And so that's what we're kind of trying to do here, folks, is we try to give people ideas and solutions to take action and make that change.
Well, I thank you for that, Stephen. I'm very positive and very encouraged by events.
Oh, you muted yourself, Dennis. Unmute yourself real quick. Dennis, unmute yourself. You accidentally muted yourself. Go back like 10 seconds and repeat that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, someone was attempting to contact me, and I had to decline the
Gotcha.
call. But let me say this: I am very encouraged by events as they break, and people, you have to get to know that there is something out here for you, something very positive for you, and for you and your family, uh, that you can hold on to, something that's real, something that will give you encouragement, something that will provide you support mentally, particularly mentally, because this is a war of attitudes we're dealing with. And this is the yin and the yang, the up and the down, the over and the out. These are almost like a spiritual war where that which I would like to do, I don't. And that which I should not do, I do. At the same time, here in the offing of everything, you have a choice. Your choice is to learn and to grow and to be on the cutting edge of who you are. And that
Here, here.
means taking time to research and investigate. Open a book that pertains to a topic that impacts you personally. I am so encouraged for that. And when we have our rallies and when I have a chance to speak, I will bring out volumes of knowledge and learning that will assist you in getting educated for your family, for yourself, and for your future, and to provide the support for our culture to change its ways and to make decisions that work in your interest, in our interests, and in the interests of your children, our children, and their future. No child left behind. Every child a success. And we make history because this
Yes.
is what God wants for us. Praise God. I
Here,
believe
here.
that.
It's funny you should say that "No Child Left Behind" portion of it, because they always like, they had that motto that's used far too often here locally, with the school boards, and under the guise of equity and whatnot. But what in reality they're doing is using that as an excuse to not do what they need to do for the children with the money, with the racketeering it, of course. But it's funny that how they like to use throw those terms around, which they should be fighting for, but they're not, and they use it as a cover.
Exactly. Without going into a lot of detail on the District of Criminals, this is their MO. This is how they've operated. I've been busy with this since the Clintons, and you see how they operate in secret. Well, multiply that by thousands, and no wonder our nation's in trouble. Serious. So the situation is this: we want to bring change. How are we going to do it? It's going to take all of us, but it also is going to take an attitude of learning, being educated. President Kennedy said an educated society is a society that can sustain itself and be free. Freedom costs everyone something.
Yep. That
And
means putting in the
all
work
of
and
us,
doing our duty, folks. That's what it means. It means ending the apathy. If we want to keep our freedom and our sovereignty, we have to put in the work as citizens and do our duty to make sure that we hold these bastards accountable.
Exactly. I think Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, Delta Camp, military tribunals, and punishment are in order. Excuse me.
Many would be in agreement with you on that one, my friend.
These are the reasons why I exist. These are the reasons why I'm here. These are the reasons why I can speak. Because I need to. Somebody needs to come forth and
Somebody
speak
does.
the truth.
Yep.
And do it in a way that shows all of us what we must do in order for things to get better. I could wail and bitch and moan and groan about all the problems, which I think most of us have an understanding of. But to sit here and talk to you about the real solutions, that's a gift.
Yes. Be the change we want to see in the world, folks. That's what we need to all start doing, being the change.
Precisely. And in order to be the change, we must have knowledge of what that means. And so I say to you, open a book and start learning what that means. Now, how do we do that? Now, I'm not trying to sell you my books, but I am trying to communicate to you that my books do contain what we need for change to happen, particularly as it relates to the family.
Yeah, absolutely. And and folks, you don't have to open a book either. You can start looking up stuff online and start researching stuff to do. That's one of the many ways you can start informing yourself and looking into things to figure out what the issues are. We have the world at our fingertips in the internet age, and so there's no reason why all of us can't utilize that to find out more. It's about getting the information, which we all have access to. The only reason one wouldn't is if they're choosing not to, folks. So we all need to step up and start being proactive now.
And I might say this, the theme and the thread that holds us together is economics. Economics regarding living wage jobs. You cannot raise a family on minimum wage. And anybody out here who has ambitions of having a family, getting married, ciphering children, needs to understand this. Our nation has declined because the jobs that we had at one time are not here. And in order to replace them, we must create them. Create the jobs that create a living wage. What is a living wage? It sure as hell is not a minimum wage.
Nope. It sure as hell isn't working 2 or 3 jobs just to make ends meet and to keep afloat. That's not a living wage.
My thoughts exactly, Stephen. You took the words out of my mouth. Exactly. And unfortunately, there are people who are doing this in order to survive, let alone try to thrive on that. This is a big problem. The ability to sustain oneself in society, it leads to all kinds of problems. And I'm almost of the opinion that by design, this may have been by design by those in authority to keep the prisons full, to deal with the healthcare industry, to keep government involved in all of the lives of our people, when government should be only limited government, not complete government
Right.
dictating to the people and being
'Cause
the
that's what they're
authority
doing
to tell them
now.
what to do.
They're doing that right now. We need far smaller government and far more localized government run by we the people and term limits.
Right now, they're talking about raising the debt limit to keep our nation from defaulting on its debt. How high does this debt limit have to go?
Right. Enough is enough.
So my proposals are that the government shrink. Those who would be out of government service would have to be retrained. But how about retrained in a living wage job rather than a minimum wage job? And how about creating a stability within our family structure where the family can survive and thrive? At one time in this country, one job could sustain a family. But because of the inflation and the cost of living, and because there have been no controls on spending, it has been mandatory for two people to create an income, and in some cases with government support as well. So we are in a dire situation now where there has to be something done about this for the kids and for the future of our nation. And that's why the American Party of America exists. That's why I'm here. I did not intend to be here like this, but history dictates different. And consequently, we're all put at risk if we sit here and bury our head in the sand. So, what is it going to be, people? Are we going to dig our heads out and get with it? Or are we going to sit here and moan and groan and bitch while the world turns around us?
Right. If we're, I see a lot of people like bitch and complain a lot, but a lot of the time they don't ever want to come up with any solutions to solve anything, but they love to bitch and complain. And like, I want to encourage everybody to be mindful. If you're gonna complain and bitch about something, at least do something about it. Because if you're not, then you're part of the problem.
It is. Right now, one of my biggest complaints, as far as complaining is concerned, is the lack of response from governors, from state legislators, United States Congress people, both Senate and House of Representatives, as well as local governments, city councils and mayors, and law enforcement, talking about the abuse in our society from wherever it comes and the root causes. As a consequence, the only thing that evil has to grow is that good people do nothing. And that was a quote from Edmund Burke back in the 1400s.
I'm gonna do a modern day retake on that quote because that's a great one. All it takes for evil to succeed is for good men to do nothing.
Precisely. And Edmund Burke wrote that. I'm not sure the date on that, so you may want to check that, but that's the idea here. And I tend to believe he's correct. With as many government agencies out here, I wrote a book called The Deplorables versus the Despicables. And who are the despicables? Hillary Clinton said that we are a basket of deplorables. But who are they to tell us we're deplorable if they're despicable? And I will tell you the despicables exist in these government agencies. As a matter of fact, Barack Obama impacted 10,000 senior executive service managers in 75 government agencies to mess up Donald Trump when he became president of the United States, to make his life intolerable. As a matter of fact, when Trump was going out, he came on a video and said his life was threatened, not from the outside, but from within.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. I had not heard that. That's interesting. That puts a lot of things into context.
Definitely. But at the same time, he talked big, but he didn't deliver on a lot of what he said he was going to do. And the thing about it is, the reason I'm running for president, the reason I'm here, is because the abuse continues. By God, when does it stop?
Right. Enough is enough. We, the people, need to rise up and say no more. We do not consent. We, the people, take back our power and hold those accountable that have abused it.
Benjamin Franklin said, "We give you a republic. See if you can keep it."
Yep. He said, we'll give you a republic, see if you can keep it. Exactly. And we're in the midst of that fight right now.
So I want to say this. Think first what our country has become. Act and do what must be done. President Kennedy said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." Now let's go on to talk about the rallies. We are going to have
Sounds
5
good.
rallies in Florida, people. We're looking at Jacksonville. We're looking at Fort Lauderdale. We're looking at Orlando. We're looking at St. Petersburg. And we're looking at Tampa, Florida. We want anybody in Florida who is close to those cities to come to our rallies. We will have the media there as well. We will talk about the issues. It will be a matter of our party growing as well, with local meetings. We're creating a structure here, an organizational structure. I am the chairman of the American Party of America, the American National Committee. From me, everything is top down. It is impacted on the state level, on the national level, and on the local level. This is the AOA. We are the Americans. We are family first. If you're not working for your family, who are you fighting for? If you're not fighting for your family, who are you working for?
Exactly.
So, you know, this is the core of politics. This is what we're supposed to be doing in our lives, in our culture, in our society.
Yep.
And without that, you see what happens. Disintegration.
Yep. And yeah, I know. Speaking of family first, you know, I'm a family man myself, and my family is very, very important to me. And you know, my family is in fact the most important thing to me in the world. And you know, if like you said, if you're not doing stuff for your family, if you're not fighting for your family, then who are you fighting for? Are you fighting for greed? Are you fighting for power, money, or ego? And we all need to be mindful of that.
And I have said, are you working for the government? Are you working for yourself?
Right.
Are you working for the devil? You might be working for God. You could be working for kids, your family. Or,
Yep.
of course, we all work for money. But the Bible says that the love of money is the root of evil.
Yep. Absolutely.
So it's not that money corrupts. It's
That
the love
absolute
of money.
power and the love of money. Yep.
Power and control of all of us. That's a sickness. That's a disease. Christ said to the Pharisees, "Render unto Caesar's what is Caesar's, and render unto God what is God." If we came from God, then God is our Father. Therefore, we should give unto him what we are, and give unto Rome what they require. And Rome, in this case, is the United States government, but that if it is in excess of that which requires government to function, then it's greed. And greed corrupts and destroys good people if unchecked, and if people allow it. As Edmund Burke said, the only thing that evil needs is for good people to do nothing. Think about that one. Chew on that one, folks.
He's absolutely right. You know, it's the apathy. It's the apathy. It's the attitude that, there's nothing I can do about it, so I might as well go along to get along. That whole attitude, folks, needs to stop, because myself, I am one man, and I'm doing something. I'm putting together these little podcasts, regardless of how many viewers or subscribers I have. I'm doing something about it, and people, it's reaching people, and it's affecting people. It's inspiring people. So why can't we all do that? We all can. So why don't we utilize our strengths, our skill sets, and do something constructive, folks? That's what we all need to start doing.
Well, that's why I'm here. And the guests that I bring on the show, they have been impacted by this culture, and in particularly by this government. Between Child Protective Services and Adult Protective Services, children and senior adults, particularly females, grandmas, grandmothers, and their money and property as widows of their husbands' trusts and estates, I know firsthand. As a court official, I deal with it every day. As a matter of fact, I got a ruling today on a motion that I filed in Williamson County Court. And that's okay. That's okay, because it needs to be filed. I am the trustee, okay? So the buck stops here. At the White House, the buck stops here. In the future, the buck stops here with respect to what my attitudes are with regard to other nations. How about all of the foreign aid that we give these other nations, yet we have our veterans sleeping on the streets?
Exactly. Like all these billions of dollars that are being sent to other countries, and we can't even take care of our veterans, let alone our homeless or our infrastructure, folks. What does that say about us as a country, as a society?
It's sick. America is sick. America needs living wage jobs. That attitude did not come from me originally. It came from Bernie Sanders, believe it or not. Living wage jobs. I think it's a good idea. And in order to get living wage jobs, we must industrialize our base. We must have manufacturing jobs. I said this 10 years ago in my YouTube videos. I said this on my acceptance speech. I've not wavered from this. It's still valid today as it was then, but it is even more needed, more necessary. So, folks, I have to tell you this. These podcasts mean something. Next week, we're going to have Marcy Friedman back from last week, and she has something to say again, even more profound than last time.
Nice. I'm looking forward to having her on.
Definitely. Again. And it's an exciting time, people. How you all come to the party, that's God's work. But when you get here, it'll be even better. And you'll be glad, because there'll be something here for you, something you can hold in your hand, something tangible, something powerful for you to make you better than what you are now. That's the magic of the AOA and the people in it. Praise God.
Praise God. I love the philosophy and the concept behind your whole party, like how You discuss solutions and how we should be bettering ourselves. We should be bettering ourselves. We should always be striving to better ourselves, folks. That's a key aspect I want to emphasize. If we constantly do that every day and are always constantly thinking, how can I better myself? How can I better myself? How can I be of service to others? How can I help others? How can I do this better? How can I do this constructively? We'd be a lot further along as a society, as opposed to having so many people just bitch and complain and do nothing and cause drama. We need solutions, and let's all unite and do something, folks. We all have the power, every one of
Uh,
us.
you're perfectly right, and I appreciate the way you're saying it, Stephen, because this is so vitally timely and important. And what's the good news is we have the knowledge. We do. Whether
Yes.
it's the problems with regard to the Federal Reserve or healthcare or job creation or homelessness or joblessness, our military, our defense. How about the Department of Peace? How about a department that motivates others to be peaceful, not only in America, but in the society and all the world? That is a concept, that's a theme that has come of its time,
Yep.
because the world has shrunk since 1945. And as a result, with the conflicts and the risk of nuclear annihilation and the power of the atom to destroy as well as to provide, it is in our best interests to explore and motivate others to be their best
Yep.
by creating the structure for that to happen. That's why the United Nations originally was created, to overcome conflicts and to provide peace in the world for our children and generations to come. I've written a book called The Promise: Empowering the Children of America and Generations to Come. I will be showing that book when we have our rallies. You can go on Amazon and
Nice.
check it out. Again, I'm not trying to sell you a book. I'm trying to empower you through the knowledge that they contain. Praise God.
And and folks, Dennis's books are a great intro and a great start for those who are wondering. Well, they haven't picked up a book in a long time. It's been a minute since they've done anything like that. Well, they're a real easy read. They're written for your average everyday person, and they're not that hard. They're very minimal as far as the presentation goes, to keep it to the data and the actual information. And so I would recommend that everybody go check out at least one of his books and use that as a starting point to start digging.
Yeah, I was trying, someone was trying to call me again, but
Oh no, you're good.
okay, good. Yeah, so that's, thank you. I appreciate that. That's it. I mean, folks, um, that's what I'm trying to say. I have 62 titles out there now on Amazon. There are 3 more coming. Incidentally, Stephen, the book, full disclosure, we are not alone. I'm getting very close to releasing it.
Oh, nice.
I know I've been prosticating on that, but the thing is, there is so much on this title, on this subject of UFOs.
Well, I would imagine that in the process of getting it finalized and all that, with recent events, you probably had to go back and add some more stuff in, with all the whole balloon incident and that aspect.
Well, yeah, and absent the balloon aspect of it, there are stories out here that haven't even been told. Um, Stories that are very convincing, convincing
Related
that
to the
the
balloon
people who
incident,
have,
or related to otherwise sightings?
these are sightings that have been documented, particularly sightings, say, in Mexico, where pilots have been encountering UFOs in multiples There is
Interesting.
one, and I'll be quick about this, one instance where a pilot was flying into Mexico City and was intercepted by three 16 feet in diameter UFOs that landed very close on the wings of his commercial plane, and one came after him underneath the plane and did some form of damage to the landing gear.
Mm. I think I heard about that case.
It was I can't tell you the year, but it happened. He was investigated. Men in Black showed up, and this is a pilot that flew commercially over 30 years, and he was interviewed on national radio as well. He is a Spanish name. He was a Spanish pilot, a Mexican pilot, and it really happened. It reminds me a little bit of the case of the gentleman in Socorro, New Mexico, the police officer.
Oh yeah, yeah. I remember. I'm familiar with that case. Yeah, that was an interesting one too.
Right. And I want to say this. That case happened in 1964. Well, David Ferrer, the Navy pilot, in 2004, 40 years later,
Okay.
saw something similar, I believe, to what was witnessed then in 64 in Socorro, New Mexico.
Interesting.
A tic tac. But this tic tac had legs, and two creatures came out of it. Now, this was a police officer. If you notice, and I'll be quick about this because I don't want to dwell on it completely, but either police officers or Navy pilots or general aviation, in other words, pilots and police, P and P, are the ones who have validated the existence of UFOs outside of our military.
Yep.
That case in Rendlesham, England.
Oh, and the Rendlesham Forest incident. Yeah, I'm familiar
Yes.
with that.
They described it. The gentleman who went out to investigate put his hand on it. It gave him a binary code mentally,
Yep.
telepathically, and it's crazy.
No, I recently came across some really like pretty much gold mine of information on that case and several others and how they connect it to our history and the context in which they were, like more pieces of the puzzle. Basically, I'm gonna when I resume News for Us Fringe Division podcast. I'm not sure when that will be, but that will be one of the things that we will touch on for sure.
For sure. For sure. And for that, we are very blessed. And as I have said before, I do believe we are not alone. And I think the evidence is overwhelming because
I agree.
I believe those people who are here and have been for years, for generations, are coming out of the woodwork, and they're saying, you're not in control. We're in control of your military atomic weapons, and we want you to know.
Exactly. Because I mean, look at how many times these nuclear launch facilities have been fucked with by these unknown these unidentified craft and totally shut down. So like, yeah, no, I'm convinced that they're not going to let us blow ourselves to nuclear annihilation because that would affect them in an unproductive and it probably affects them on levels we can't even comprehend.
Well, Stephen, I have to tell you, there is an incident where a ballistic missile, intercontinental ballistic missile, was, I believe it was shot off at Vandenberg Air Force Base in California. And it was intercepted by a UFO with a ray beam. and blew off the
Yep,
top of
I've
the
seen that
missile.
video. Yeah, that shit was crazy. I was like, whoa, that was insane. That was intense, man. That was like, what? It looked like straight out of a sci-fi show or something. I swear to God, it did. It looked just like a beam you see out on
It
Star Trek
was.
when they shoot the phasers.
It was. This was a military video. I mean, this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I
Our
seen
government,
that one. It was green, like a green beam, wasn't it? Like a greenish beam.
something like that.
I think it was. Yeah, if I remember correctly.
Our government knows about UFOs. Luis Alessandro says that our nation is in possession of exotic material.
And keep in mind that's just their poster boy for what they're willing to let us know about. I'm sure that's much more involved than that, folks, and we should also be mindful of that as well.
Oh, this is a deep dive. I mean, we're talking deep dives here. They know so much.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
They know so much. I mean, we
They
feel
do. It just makes you wonder how much that what they are telling us, how much more is there that they're not, you know?
That's a deep dive. I mean, the information, the knowledge is so great. They know all of it. They're actually have become a part of it. I believe they're in cahoots with the other side, and the extraterrestrials and them are in agreement. I believe that, and I believe these other governments too.
From what I've been able to research, it looks like they made deals with the malevolent ETs, a couple malevolent ET groups, Greys, reptilians, et cetera, et cetera. That's the backstory on that for the context, folks. From what I know.
Well, it's very possible. I mean, I would not eliminate any of it, because this the more that's researched and the more that's coming out, it's actually, I believe that that whole culture is coming out. It's like when the gays came out, it's like the ETs are coming out. They're coming out.
They're basically getting ready to reveal themselves, I think, folks. I mean,
look at how
look at how the mainstream acknowledged their existence last April. How unexpected that was. Why would they do that unless their hand was being forced? They would never acknowledge the existence of those things ever. So for them to do that all of a sudden shows that their hand is being forced on some level, and they're trying to do damage control.
And it doesn't surprise me. My gosh, I mean, how many events, how many stories, how many unexplainables, and it keeps going. It just keeps going.
Yep.
I mean, it doesn't stop. So there is something here, and they know it because they know the truth.
It's said the universe is so vast that it would be a statistical improbability for there not to be any other life, because of how vast it is and how many other stars there are and how many galaxies there are in the universe that we are able to see just with the tools we have at our disposal, as of science right now. So like it's so vast, it would be, to quote the movie Contact, well, if there's not any other life, it would be an awful waste of space.
Right. And Carl Sagan, he had a good thought on these things, and but obviously there's been a cover up by this government, and in some respects the other governments have covered it up too, including the Soviet Union at that time. So as it relates to the military, the atomic programs, and all of those different things, I think that's probably accelerated why these ETs are making themselves known, making their presence known, and with all their technology, advanced technology, propulsion systems, wingless craft, all of the different things that
and a lot of this tech, folks, that they have, that our government's already had access to and probably reverse engineered a lot of, would give us free energy and would free us from the dependencies of fossil fuels, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, which begs the question, why did they keep our secret for so long? Was it really so people wouldn't panic, or was it to keep control over the oil industry, the gas industry, Any and everything that that profit is being made off of, folks. You got to think about it from that context too, because think about it, those that are making the money, they're not going to want to reveal that, because then they lose their control and their money and their grift.
Well, that's exactly right. And as it relates to the future, as president, I would allow that information to follow. Although I do believe I would find resistance also in the government to keep that stuff quiet and silent. Yet there's too much evidence now to deny it and to ignore it. They've even admitted it
Absolutely.
in certain areas. And so this will be a common thread, including our national security issues regarding ETs and how to handle that issue. Also, I want you to know, Stephen, that in the event of terrorist attacks on America, both domestic as well as international, I will employ the federal law enforcement agencies to protect the American people from the destructive powers that these people have created and their schemes to hurt and maim our nation and our families. Um, Government is there to protect the American people. And there's a duty here on the part of the president to get with the program. Unfortunately, Joe Biden right now, um, I don't think understands some of this. He does for Ukraine, which is okay. I like that too. But as far as our borders are concerned and the destructiveness of illegals, I think that there's got to be change, a lot of changes there. Some of these illegals are very arrogant. They come into this country, they think they own America because they were allowed the privilege to stay. And in many respects, they are supported by our own tax dollars. While we have veterans on the street who are homeless and are being hurt by gangs and people who hate America.
It's one of the greatest travesties of our time, really, that our veterans can't even get the support they need in their own country, but yet we're giving people that aren't even from here that they like. If we can't take care of our own person, how in the hell are we expected to take care of somebody coming in from the outside, folks? That's what I want to know.
Exactly. And there is knowledge to believe that these people who are allowing our borders to be unsecure want to fill our nation with over 600 million people. That's wrong. That is very bad. America could not sustain that kind of numbers, and nor was this country designed for those kinds of numbers. The realities are legal immigration is okay, illegal immigration is not okay, and it needs to be changed. People who come into this country who want to go to work need a green card. They can come and they can go.
There's a
They
proper
wish
way to
to.
go about becoming a naturalized citizen of this country, folks. There is a process, and that's what we're advocating for. Go through this legal process. What we're that's It's very simple, folks. I mean, I helped my neighbor with, his I did the legal translations and the legal paperwork for him and his wife and his son to become citizens, and that it was fine. That's the way you're supposed to do it, folks. That's
So
under
we
the
have a
law,
problem.
according to the law.
Correct. And this has got to be fixed. We must put uh, those on notice who have come in illegally to come out and tell us who they are and where they're from. If they can't do that, then they need to be deported because we can't afford to keep those type of people in this society. We have too many law-abiding people who depend upon government to protect them. But if the government cannot protect them, then we have a problem. We have a bigger problem. That's one reason why we have this,
Yep.
the Second Amendment, so that people have the ability to arm themselves to protect themselves. And we should never relinquish that. And that's one of the things that I believe has kept us from being a dictatorship in our own country.
Yep. I agreed.
Folks, I appreciate the time we spent today. Stay with us for next time. Share this with your friends and family.
Yes,
We
definitely.
are creating the future of this country through our efforts to change our nation back to the we, us, and our, from the me, my narcissism, evil, selfishness, and lack of sacrifice from those who we have elected in our government. So
Here, here.
let us proceed here at the end, Stephen, and thank you for this opportunity to advance the campaign for America.
You're very welcome. And we'll be having Marcy on next Tuesday, folks. So stay tuned for that interview. That's going to be a good one.